life stuff. One of my problems is that you come in and out and you don't fully grasp the whole concept because...
In his book on Muhammad's life, notable Muslim scholar Yasir Qadhi mentions how paganism supposedly began in Arabia. He states that a man from the tribe of Khuza'ah had imported an idol of the god Hubal, which was given to him by the Amalekites. He further acknowledges that the pagan Arabs were notorious for worshipping rocks and stones, since they believed these symbolic objects, which they believed represented specific gods and goddesses, would help bring them closer to Allah. Here's what Yasir Qadhi writes. The person who first altered the religion of Ibrahim and introduced paganism was Amr ibn Luhay al-Khuzai. The Prophet said, I saw Amr ibn Luhay al-Khuzai wandering around the fire of hell with his entrails cut open behind him. He was the first to alter the religion of Ismail. Amr ibn Luhay travelled to the pagan Amalekites in Syria and returned to Mecca with an idol named Hubal, and thus paganism was born in Mecca.
يا باعل نحن نقدم لك هد القربان لقد جئتكم بهذا من الشام فاعبدوه.
Vital lessons can be derived from this deeply consequential event. The Amalekites were notoriously powerful, and they attributed their power and dominance to their idols and their paganism. Amr ibn Luhay's inferiority complex led him to yearn to emulate their apparent success and in turn destroyed his nation's faith. The lesson here is that technological or infrastructural advancements do not necessarily equate to moral or ethical correctness. Secondly, Amr ibn Luhay was the chieftain of the tribe of Khuza'ah, one of the most respected chieftains of Arabia. It demonstrates how scholars and influential figures can have a profound impact on their community, whether positive or negative. After the introduction of the idol Hubal, idol worship began to proliferate. Pieces of stone from the Kaaba would be taken as mini idols and worshipped when travelling. It is pertinent to note that Muslims do not believe in the sanctity of the materials used for the Kaaba. They are merely bricks and clay. Rather, Muslims believe in the sanctity of the location. Neither the marble floor nor the clay structure or silk cloth of the Kaaba hold any sacred value in Islam. Abu Raja al-Utaridi narrated, before the advent of Islam, we used to worship rocks and stones, and if we found a rock more beautiful than the other rock we were worshipping, we would throw the first rock and replace it with the new one. If we were travelling and did not have a rock, we would collect a pile of sand, use milk from a goat to make the sand firm, and perform tawaf, circumambulation, around the structure. When the Prophet conquered Mecca, there were around 360 idols in and around the Kaaba. Some were in the shape of humans, some were in the shape of animals, but most were half human, half animal structures. The Quraysh also had the theology that Allah had angel daughters, so that they also worshipped angels as daughters of God. It is worth noting that the pagans of Arabia believed in Allah and did not have an idol for him. While some forms of paganism worship an idol as their ultimate god, Arab paganism did not depict Allah, as they knew he could not be represented by an idol. The Quran notes, if you ask them who created the heavens and the earth and subjected the sun and the moon for your benefit, they will certainly say Allah. So how can they be deluded from the truth? However, when asked why they worship the idols when they believe in Allah, they say, we worship them only so they may bring us closer to Allah. The Quran further states, they worship besides Allah others who can neither harm nor benefit them, and say, these are our intercessors with Allah. They did, however, attribute a level of divinity to these idols, believing them to be lesser gods in comparison to Allah. They believed in the divinity of Allah, but viewed him as too holy, thus requiring intermediaries.
Read more about this. Where is Sicily?
Unfortunately for Qadhi, he doesn't seem to realize how his statements actually prove that Islam is nothing more than regurgitated and repackaged idolatry, and that the Allah of the Kaaba was nothing other than the pagan moon god Hubal, which happens to simply be the Arabicized name for the false god Baal. For instance, the Islamic sources affirm that Hubal was the chief deity at Mecca, and that the Kaaba, which is the cubical structure that Muslims till this day circumambulate 7 times, was his shrine. Cambridge University Press's book, The Cambridge Companion to the Quran, edited by American educator and scholar of Islam Jane Damon McAuliffe, states, "The Sirah literature presents Mecca's cult as a pagan one to the god Hubal, and depicts the Arabian religious environment in which Muhammad grew up as overwhelmingly pagan, the final vestiges of the ancient Near Eastern religious tradition." In his book, Muhammad and the Believers at the Origins of Islam, Islamic scholar and author Fred McGraw-Donner states, "At the center of the town was the shrine called the Kaaba, a large cubical building with a sacred black stone affixed in one corner. That was the sanctuary to the pagan god Hubal." E.J. Brill's First Encyclopedia on Islam, Volume 4 from 1913 to 1936 states, "In the Kaaba was the statue of the god Hubal, who might be called the god of Mecca and of the Kaaba. Zaitani gives great prominence to the connection between the Kaaba and Hubal. Besides him, however, Alat, Al-Uzza, and Al-Manat were worshipped and are mentioned in the Quran. Hubal is never mentioned there. What position Allah held besides these is not exactly known. The Islamic tradition has certainly elevated him at the expense of other deities." Qadhi seems unaware that in pagan beliefs, a temple was dedicated to one specific deity, not to multiple divinities. Therefore, to say that Hubal was the particular god to whom the shrine was devoted means that the Kaaba belonged to him. As such, the only way that Allah could be the god of the Kaaba is if the pagans took him to be one and the same deity as Hubal. In other words, Hubal is the deity whom the pagan Arabs honored and called Allah. This, therefore, refutes Qadhi's assertion that the pagans had no idol depicting Allah, since they certainly did. The idol of Hubal would be an idol of Allah, since they are one and the same divinity. As such, the idolatrous Arabs did indeed have a visible image and depiction of their god Allah. Furthermore, that Hubal was imported from the Amalekites means that he is none other than Baal, since that is the deity whom the Amalekites were worshipping. Therefore, since Hubal was Baal, and since Allah and Hubal are the same, this means that the Allah worshipped at Mecca was Baal himself. Hence, the Islamic religion emerges from Baal worship, whom the Holy Bible identifies as Satan. Moreover, Islam has carried over the idolatrous veneration of stones since Muhammad made it an obligation for his followers to kiss and caress the black stone, which is what he himself did with great fervor and passion. In fact, Muhammad's reverence for this stone left one of his closest followers baffled, since he failed to see the logic in venerating an object that couldn't help or harm anyone. Sahih al-Bukhari, Volume 2, Book 26, number 667. Narrated Abis bin Rabia, Umar came near the black stone and kissed it, and said, "No doubt, I know that you are a stone, and can neither benefit anyone nor harm anyone. Had I not seen Allah's apostle kissing you, I would have not kissed you." Astonishingly, Qadhi's prophet is reported to have said venerating the black stone erases sins, and that it was once white but turned black from all the transgressions of those who kissed and or touched it. Sunan an-Nasai 2919, Book 24, Hadith 302, Grade Hasan. It was narrated from Abdullah bin Ubayd bin Umayr that a man said, "O Abdurrahman, why do I only see you touching these two corners?" He said, "I heard the Messenger of Allah say, touching them erases sins. And I heard him say, whoever circumambulates 7 times, it is like freeing a slave." Jami at-Tirmidhi 877, Book 9, Hadith 70, Grade Hasan. Ibn Abbas narrated that the Messenger of Allah said, "The black stone descended from the paradise, and it was more white than milk. Then it was blackened by the sins of the children of Adam." As if it couldn't get any more shocking, Muhammad also proclaimed that the stone would come to life on the last day in order to make intercession with Allah for all those who showed it affection and reverence. Sunan Ibn Majah 2944, Book 25, Hadith 63, Grade Hasan. It was narrated that Sa'id bin Jubair said, "I heard Ibn Abbas say, the Messenger of Allah said, this stone will be brought on the day of resurrection, and it will be given 2 eyes with which to see, and a tongue with which to speak, and it will bear witness for those who touched it in sincerity." In this regard, Muhammad was no different than the very pagans he decried, since this was the very reason why they venerated such stones and idols to begin with, i.e., the Arabs served them for the express purpose of having these objects or entities intercede for them before their Lord so as to procure his forgiveness and acceptance. Quran chapter 39 verse 3. Is it not to God that sincere devotion is due? But those who take for protectors other than God say, we only serve them in order that they may bring us nearer to God. How then are Muhammad and his followers any different or better, seeing that Qadhi's own prophet taught the same exact thing about the black stone, which is itself nothing more than a pagan relic carried over into Islam? Thank you so much for watching this video. If you've made it all this far, please be sure to like and subscribe. All references to literature used in this video are located in the description box below. See you all soon.